Hello, this is Jamie Magrich. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card. Well, let's get started here. It's using the Sweet and Precious from Stampin' Up, this stamp here. I'm using the dies that coordinate with this Merriest Snowflake. This is an older, or actually I'm using the snowflakes from this one. It's an older stamp set, but I didn't have any of the newer ones, so. And then I'm going to be using the dies from the Season of Chic, the snowflake dies. Okay. I'm also going to be using a stamping platform. You could use your Stamparatus. You could just use the large block, which is what I did on the original. Just mount them, or you could use them, stamp them individually. I just stamped them all at one time. That way, if they didn't stamp well, I could correct it. Okay, so the consumables, I have a couple small pieces of ribbon here. This one is 6.5 inches, and this one is 4 inches. And that's for the finishing. I have a 3/4 by 4.25 inch piece of Night of Navy. I have a piece of Misty Moonlight, which is 2 inches by 3.25 inches. And I've taken on my scoring tool and scored every 1/8 of an inch. So I get this nice texture. There you go. Okay, I have a 1 3/4 by 3 inch piece of white and a 2 by 3.25 inch piece of Misty Moonlight. I have my piece I'm going to stamp on, which is 4.25 by 5.5 of white. I have a card base, which is 5.5 by 8.5, scored and folded at 4.25. And then I have it was a scrap of silver foil paper that I die cut those snowflakes out of, and I've already put dimensionals on the back. This one I put one large dimensional and then a bunch of little ones to hold all those pieces in. You could put it with the pieces coming out. I just like the look of it with the pieces in. Okay. And the only inks we're using is Night of Navy and Boho Blue. So let's get started here. Let's start by stamping on this one. I use the Night of Navy ink. Hopefully you can see, and just make sure you get that inked up well. Check it, make sure it's well inked. Okay, and I'm going to turn this sideways a little bit. And it is going to stamp off a little, so let me bring in a scratch paper. Perfect. Okay. Now this can get adhered to this piece. And I guess I'll use this. I am going to start using more of my retired things and stuff that is not Stampin' Up. It's all been sitting just idle, and I'm kind of in a spending freeze, so I want to make sure I start using some of my older stuff. There's no point having it if I'm not going to use it. Okay, so there's that piece. Now let's bring in this piece. My stamp positioning tool. This is a Misty tool. You can use any stamping tool, or none at all, that's fine too. I'm going to place this in the corner. I've previously lined up my stamps so that they, just make sure I got that magnet where it's not gonna, yep, okay. And I'm just going to ink this up. This is a really inky stamp pad, so I should probably get it in one stamp, but I just want to make sure. Since it is the background, it isn't quite as imperative that it's perfect, but I just like to, well, that's nice, so we're good there. Okay, put this away. Alright, now we can assemble this card. We're going to add this piece here. It's longer than it needs to be. And I'm going to use tape runner. It's one I've had for a long time. I used to use it all the time, but I didn't need it quite all the way to the edge, but that's all right. So we're going to put this down here, and this, we're going to kind of divide this card into 2/3 and 1/3. So we'll put it down here. And let's see if we can make sure we get it lined up. Yeah, it's a little crooked. There we go. Turn it over. Pair of snips. I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors then. Alright, so there's that part. Now I'm going to take this Night of Navy piece. I'm going to put that down a little bit lower, so there's maybe 1/4 of an inch down here at the bottom. I'm going to use the lines that I have on there to kind of see if it's straight. Again, turn it over, snip that off. Okay, now I'm going to bring in the longer piece. This cut probably could have been 6 inches and it would have been fine. I'm going to turn this over and I'm going to put some adhesive on the back. I'll lay this across. It's going to be centered in that Night of Navy piece. Tack it on one side. Make sure it's straight and taut. Tack it on the other side. Just trying not to twist the ribbon because it stretches just a little. Now this other piece we will tuck underneath. Just tie a 1/2 of a knot. And trim off the edges. Okay. Let's go ahead and adhere this to the front of our card. Make sure it's opening correctly. Line it up with the fold edge. You can always trim off the other edge. Okay, put some dimensionals on the back of our penguin. not going to put any in the middle because it's going over all of this. Take those backers off. This is going to go over here on this bottom corner. I kind of had it so this edge and this edge were about the same. It's going to overlap those stamped areas a little bit. And then I'm going to bring in my snowflakes. Take those backers off. Tricky to get the back off and not have it pull the piece out at the same time. One more. Okay, this one's going to go here. This other big one is going to go up here. Little tiny one is going to go down here in this corner. There you go. There's the card we just made together. Here's the one I did previously. Well, thank you so much for joining me today at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper. Did it work? I don't know if it worked.